Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigor Mortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm Gamey. The E stands for evil. Because I am currently the combination of the Gamer in Yellow and Mike E. Because Mike E can't make it with us today.
I was wondering what you were going to do for the intro today.
Yeah. I was
yes,
going to do nothing, but then I'm like, I should do something.
Fair. Yeah, unfortunately, Mikey, the E stands for evil, could not make it today, but he told us to power through without him.
Mm-hmm.
And we shall do so. So, first off, I kind of wish that we had done this in January. this creepypasta.
Why?
Since it takes place in the middle of January.
I mean, yeah, but how would you know that?
That's
There's
true.
no January tags for stories.
That is true, and like I chose this one because it's like, oh well, we're doing this in the middle of the winter, and it's something called The Woman in the Snow. Like perfect. Like we got a cold, wintry creepypasta in the roster for today.
I mean, not to date the episode, but we're 2 days past January, so it might as
How
well be
dare
January.
you date our recording of this episode? I feel people expect us to be like that evening of like of the Thursday that these get posted.
Yeah. Record it immediately, edit it, and throw it up there.
Yeah. Despite the fact that these get posted at 3:03 a.m. Thursday morning.
Yeah, we record at midnight.
Exactly.
And as soon as we finish editing, you immediately have it edited. Or as soon as you finish recording, you have it immediately edited, ready to go. That's just how that works, right?
Yeah, I have a room full of imps just like doing all the audio editing and work and stuff like that. Makes the job really easy.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's what future me really is. It's just a bunch of imp. It's just a bunch of
He's
imps
just
on
your
typewriters.
audio imp.
Yeah, he's just my audio imp.
Yeah.
Strange enough, he's still me. He's just from the future where I was turned into an imp.
How far in the future? Because isn't it like hours after the recording though?
No, he came back from the future.
Oh, I see.
Like Terminator style. Like there's a time bubble and everything. Why are we like we're building too much lore in the background of this?
Also, you literally said Back to the Future and then did not reference Back to the Future. You immediately went to Terminator.
Well, no, I said Back from the Future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I chose another 80s time travel movie.
I mean, it's fine. We should probably stop delaying.
Probably. All right, moving on. So yeah. And we're here to discuss those internet stories. Most creepy and most
that's where we
were. And be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have The Woman in the Snow. So, The Woman in the Snow is by Cheesequake on creepypasta.wiki, as far as I can tell. Like they're the first person that posted this story on the website. In the source, like in the history of the page and such. So that's what I generally go by if I can't find a credited name. And before we dive into the rundown, let's do our initial recommendations. I'm gonna partially recommend this story.
How dare you? I will also partially recommend this story.
Cool. All right. Well, let's find out why we partially recommend The Woman in the Snow.
And if our recommendations may change by the end of this.
Indeed.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. Let's start with the rundown, though, shall we? So, Nair, because we never get a name, moved from Virginia, USA to northern Norway, a small town called Laxalov. And just going to point this out now. Apologies to our Scandinavian listeners. I'm going to be saying some Scandinavian names and words. I'm going to probably mispronounce it.
Yes.
I apologize ahead of time. So, while spending his time in Laxalov in January, he's bored because there's not much to do in the town. So Nair decides to take a walk out in the local woods, which are called Isingleskogen.
Yep, that's it.
Isingleskogen. Isingleskogen. Sorry.
Wow.
That's how I honestly legitimately that's how I had to use that as a point of reference to how I would pronounce it, these words. And I get it just because my stupid English tongue is just how do you say this?
Yeah, it doesn't know how to wrap around those sounds.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the word of that's the name of the woods. Nair is equipped with some trail mix and a bottle of water, and that's about it. And so they trek out, leaving a little late in the day, 1 p.m. in the Scandinavian regions of the world. So
Pretty smart.
that's when the troubles start. A little while after they trek out into the woods, they encounter a naked woman out in the snow. I'll add snow-covered woods, and though initially beautiful appearing, they are acting very strange and lure Nair deeper and deeper into the woods. Mostly because Nair initially is under the assumption that she is on something and needs help, though later discovers that the woman was some kind of entity appearing as a horrid frostbitten walking corpse when he finally catches up with her. He then proceeds to spend 2 days running and walking about, absolutely lost in the woods while being stalked by this woman. Eventually, on the second night, being chased by the woman and being physically touched by her, he loses it. Also, he gets kind of some frostbite markings or pain on his where she touched him on the face and such. And he just starts running. Now he finds the trail finally that he was on originally, but he abandons it in the hopes of finding the main road to town by following the waning sunlight. Of course, the sunlight vanishes quickly, and it's suddenly nighttime again. And it's about this time that he comes across a pile of bones and discovers her latest victim, who's still alive and she's feasting upon. Nair also finds a lighter amongst the bones, and in an attempt to escape, throws the lit lighter at her as the woman appears fearful of fire. Though it doesn't appear to do much, he does in fact escape to the road and passes out on the road, where he is run over by trucks and cars and stuff. No, he's rescued by a driver and brought to a hospital. He tells authorities that he got lost. Doesn't bring up the whole woman thing because that was a really weird and messed up thing, and who would believe him? Though some of his local employees, the people he works with, when he mentions that he got lost in the woods and stuff, they seem to have a knowledge of what's going on out there. Eventually, he moves to Ottawa, Canada, but the frostbitten spots where the woman touched her, or where the woman touched him, continued to hurt years after, even during and especially during the winter months. Finn,
He's got some sick scars though.
He does, yeah.
And they look like skeletal fingers.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of there's a Slender vlog that that kind of did something similar to this, where I think it's I cannot remember what it was called. It was literally 5 to 6 years ago I watched it. I'll put it in the show notes, or future me can look it up. I was referring to TJA projects, which you can check out on YouTube at TJA projects. But basically, yeah, Slenderman grabs somebody by the neck, and they had these dark black stained handprints on their neck where Slenderman grabbed him or grabbed them, or where the tentacles grabbed them.
Yeah.
And yeah, in this story, there's these frostbitten marks on his neck and around his ear that are the imprint of like skeletal hands. Like, I mean, as far as like being attacked by a supernatural entity goes, that's a pretty baller scar from it.
Yeah, except for the
Aside from the pain,
stinging pain, like
Yeah.
every winter.
the constant stinging pain. Yeah, the winter being a reminder, like just move to Florida.
Yeah.
Go somewhere incredibly hot all the time. I did notice that he traded one cold location for another, moving from
Yeah.
northern Norway to Ottawa. I mean, they're not like Ottawa's a little bit farther south than where I think this town in northern Norway is, but it's still up there.
Still up in the Great White North.
Oh fuck, bud, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you betcha.
Yep. But yeah, that'll do it for the rundown. That was The Woman in the Snow. So I suppose we'll move on to Everyone Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions. At this point, I've got a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with this one here. It might have just been such a big chance that I was seeing as being bigger than it was. So I think it's supposed to be that I was seeing the difference as being bigger than it was.
I just corrected it to seeing it as being.
Yeah.
Seeing it as being bigger than it was.
But then that would make this that would just that's a third it too much in the story.
Yeah.
I know Mikey's not here, but like we shouldn't like actively be making it stories.
I mean, I'm not making a new one. I'm just adding an it in the middle. And I did reword that to be like, with it being such a big change, though, I might have been seeing it as being bigger than it was. Like when you say it, it sounds normal, but when you look at it, there's three it's in that sentence. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's fine? Question mark.
I'm Ron Burgundy. Yeah, fair. But I'll move on to the next one then.
Mm-hmm.
I could only really tell it was a person because it was clearly 2 feet. And then in quotes, crunch, crunch, crunch. End quote. They sounded distant, just barely close enough for me to actually hear it. So I kind of wish that the crunch, crunch, crunch had been unquoted and on its own separate line to better differentiate it as a sound effect.
Oh, because you thought that someone was saying crunch, crunch, crunch.
It to me, it could like easily be like because misconstrued that like he is saying crunch, crunch, crunch.
Why would he?
To like that sounds like crunch, crunch, crunch behind me.
Oh, I see. I hear a crunch, crunch, crunch over there.
Yeah, a tap, tap, tapping on my window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like it could be like you don't need to be in quotes. It could have been like moved to the down and like separated from the rest of the sentences here, and just like even do all caps so like to kind of add on that it's a sound effect. But
that'd be a very loud sound effect if it's all caps, though.
Well, do it all caps and then like shrink it down a couple of fonts size. So it's like it's a low loud crunch.
Or, and stick with me here, italics.
Who are you, gamer?
I'm not. I am Game E.
Right. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh dear lord.
The E stands for whatever.
So wait, is Mikey just like flesh puppeting you?
Just I can neither confirm nor deny.
No, you'd be giggling way more if you were Mikey. But
don't know what's real anymore.
No. But I'll move on. Isingaliskogan is a big expanse of forest. Isingaliskogan or Isingaliskogan? Which is it? Because there are 2 separate spellings apparently in the story.
Oh damn.
Also,
It's such a big word. I didn't even realize that. There's so many letters there. It's like they're probably the same.
So I did a little bit of Googling because like the story gave me a place. So I had to look it up.
Yeah, of
I
course.
couldn't find Isinglisskogen outside of links to this story on Google. It does not appear on Google Maps. I did find Langselev or Langselv, as it comes up when you type in Langselev on Google. So it's missing an E in the I guess the Scandinavian version of it on Google Maps. So there is a town up in northern Norway that kind of matches the town that we have here, but the local forest around that town is Stabbursdalen National Park, which is a expansive national park. It's also on the wrong side of town. And the wrong side of the road than this story proposes, and like the other side of the town, like the other side of the road in the town, Langselv in northern Norway, that's on Google Maps, shows that there's just like there is like some wooded like wilderness, but it's like just dotted with like ponds and lakes. So I don't, I because like in the story, it mentions like later on in the story that the woods were to the southeast of town. And the Stabbursdalen National Park is on the northwest of town. In the real world, at least in the Google Maps and stuff like that, in the real world. So this left me kind of unsure if maybe the names in this story are derived from like a local regional naming thing, or it's all a fictionalized version for this story. Like, hence why.
Option B.
Sure. What's option C?
Option C would be, this is a Norwegian Icker Falls / Stillwood situation.
Yeah, that falls into my option B then. Which is that it's fictionalized for the story.
No, it's real. In reality, it's an actual place you could go to, and it's being covered up.
What?
So people don't know about it.
And
like,
Icker Falls doesn't exist.
How do you know? Have you been there?
Yes, I have.
No, you've been near it, but you were too scared to go into the forest.
It was private property. Me and Adam from RPX wouldn't have gotten shot.
I mean, you can't confirm though. You did not go, so how do you know it's not real?
I saw the mountains. They're wooded foothills. Like, yeah, no, like it guys, no, it doesn't exist. Icker Falls does not exist.
Are you referring to me as two people now?
No, I'm like audience.
Oh, okay. When their immersion, they're allowed to believe it's real if they want.
I guess. I just don't want to have like a situation, like a certain like bad situation happen as people like taking things too far and, you know, thinking something is real and going somewhere and doing trouble.
I suppose.
Regardless, fair enough. Like, so like I still think your option C and my option B are the same thing.
Okay.
Because like it's a fictionalized part for it's for the story. Like immersion wise, yes, like it's a real place in the story, but out of the story, it is a fictionalized thing that is a construct of the author.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm not sure. Like maybe it is like maybe there are woods southeast of Laxelv, and like they're called Isinglisskogen, but it's so localized, like what it's called, that like it doesn't pop up on Google Maps. But that seems kind of odd to me. But
yeah, just the way that Isinglisskogen sounds like, it sounds like if there was a Norwegian Ryu, that would be his down forward punch. He'd be like, Isinglisskogen, as a fireball comes out. Maybe an ice ball, actually.
Yeah, it would be an ice Hadouken.
Yeah.
Also, when I did try to translate Isinglisskogen to see, because like, oh, maybe like the author like just chose like a a Nordic name, like a Nordic word or something. So maybe it means something. So I went to Google Translate and looked up Isinglaskogan,
Yes.
and what I got was Isinglaskogan detected as a Norwegian word, and its English translation is Isinglaskogan.
Nice. Thanks for drawing that out. I was on the edge of my seat and thoroughly disappointed. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So was I. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, why? Like, it detected that it was Norwegian because I used the detect language thing.
Yeah.
It detected that it was Isinglaskogan is a Norwegian word, but the English translation to it is Isinglaskogan. Like,
Damn
it
it.
doesn't have a translation. So I don't know, but yeah. I digress. I'll move on to the next thing here. This is less of a like typo thing and more of just like something I wish had been added. So this is the paragraph. Sorry, it's a paragraph I'm reading.
Okay, let's make a sandwich.
I looked up from my struggle to notice her now standing very close to me, nearly arm's length away. That's when I lost it. I began to will myself away from her. I took off running, not caring what direction I was headed anymore. I was heading anymore. As long as I could get away from that monster, that thing. She wasn't human. Or if she wasn't a normal human. When I looked up at her that time, her body was completely covered in frostbite. The entirety of her skin was a deep blue color. Patches of decay pocketed her skin. I think there could have been a sentence or even like a little like probably like a sentence or a few words early on to give just a hint as to why he ran so suddenly from her. Just as a little bit of foreshadow, like because we do get like an explanation as like why he ran like later, but he just kind of like he looks up from his struggle, notices she's very close now, and then just loses it and runs and doesn't, and we don't get to find out why until like after. And like I'm fine like knowing why after, but I was kind of confused, like why'd you lose it? Like that's when I lost it. I began to will myself away from her. Like,
uh, the way that I saw it, the reason that he lost it was because in the like 1 second it took him to wipe his eyes, he teleported in front of him silently
I would have
and
liked,
jump scared him.
I think then that should have also like kind of added to it, like that, a few words of that should have been added as well. My fix was I looked up from my struggle to notice her now standing very close to me, nearly arm's length away. Upon seeing her, I lost it, willing myself away from her. Like that's all I needed. Is this upon seeing her, I lost it. Like, but I would also accept like your thing where it's like he looked up and like she was so close so suddenly I lost it, like, and
Yeah.
then backtracked away.
Yeah, there could be something there to elaborate on it. Like you have to read in between the lines to. I mean, you don't even have to. It describes what happens. But either way,
It does describe like a few like sentences later, but it was just like such a sudden like I lost it, I ran away from her. Like
like I said before,
yeah.
her looking disgusting and stuff, I don't believe was the initial reason he left. He tried to run. Like that. Yes, that's also a thing apparently because it went immediately into that. But I think the initial scare was she's up in my grill. But yes,
And
if that was put after all the description, maybe.
Yeah.
Like after like jump scared. Okay, now freeze frame as we see what he's seeing, and then oh god, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. But then again, like, it should have like a word or two just to like say like that. That's why he's reacting to her so suddenly. Was like that she's up in his grill so fast. Like how the hell she get so fast? Like, oh shit! Jump scare. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I'll move on to the next thing. I was just about out of my mind. I was running now. I had no idea where I would end up. So I'm going to take a page from Gamer's book here and combine these three sentences because those are three sentences I just read.
What was it?
I was just about out of.
Could have just been one.
I was just about out of my mind. Period. I was running now. Period. I had no idea where I would end up, period.
Yeah.
So the way I fixed it was I was just about out of my mind, comma, still running, comma, I had no idea where I would end up.
Mm-hmm.
So like I even like got because I was running now kind of like bugged me. So I was like, nah, still running. And then my next one here, this is another case of like I'm using an example in the story, but I'm not going to, like it's sort of a statement over that like kind of encompasses the entire story. Like there are other instances of this issue, but I'm going to just use one example because otherwise we'd be here all day. For just a second, she looked right at me with a look of such intent. I can't think of what she might want to do to me, but I'm not really liking any of my options. As I sat there, listening to the distant crunching, I focused so intently I could feel every single snowflake that hit me. For the most part, this story is told in the past tense. And then we get some present tense kind of just intermingled. Like it should have read, I couldn't think of what she might want to do to me, but I wasn't really going to like any of my options. That was for sure. I had that was for sure. I added just for like a little bit extra flair at the end.
Yeah.
There's a few other instances of this in the story, like of where like the past tense and the present tense like kind of mingle up because like I guess he's like having thoughts in that moment, but like even then I think it should still all be present or past tense because he's thinking back of like what he was thinking back then.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
welcome to my tense talk.
Hell yeah. TM.
Yeah.
How patented is it?
It's not that bad. It's
Okay.
it's actually copyright.
Oh, I see.
Or it's actually copyright free. Anyone could use it.
Mm.
But moving on to the next one here. Around then, I turned back to my path to see that imitation of a woman standing directly in front of me. She was far enough away that I couldn't see if there was any frostbite on her this time. What? Okay, so I think this is meant to mean she is directly in his path, but it read like she just spawned inches from him again, like inches in front of him again.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that
So like,
is the case.
yeah. So I think it's like around then I turned my back. I turned back to my path to see that imitation of a woman standing directly, like maybe like directly in my line of sight, maybe, or directly in my path.
Yeah. Right in front of me, like-
Yeah. Because the way it is, like directly in front of me, is like it's directly in front of me, inches away. Suddenly, and then suddenly she's not inches away. Because
Yeah.
she's far enough away that like he can't tell if she's frostbitten or not.
In the distance ahead of me, like
Yeah.
there's options.
There's a couple of times in the story where like space and time don't apply. And case in point, I'm going to touch on the time part.
Okay.
I had no idea how long I was running. Maybe 45 minutes, but it was rapidly getting darker. I was losing light and my ability to navigate. I could only try to keep running in a single direction. Then just keep going in that direction once the sun was down. And then like shortly after that, it talks about like I've been running for hours. So it's like a good portion of the story is just so like the time issues sort of a thing, but a good portion of the story is just running and the description of running.
Yeah,
And
and it does repeat that repeatedly.
constantly.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like padding to me throughout the story.
A
Like
little bit.
there was parts of the story where it's like, okay, you don't have to keep mentioning that you ran for several hours. Like you can just like get to like we could shorten this down somehow.
You don't necessarily have to use several hours to tell us how you're running for several hours.
Yeah, and like I get it's probably trying to invoke a sense of being lost in the woods and stalked.
Yeah.
Like again, Blair Witch Project does it. Like they're wandering around for hours. However, like they at least have the magic of editing of like cutting bits or something like that, or like having the camera not rolling for the hours and hours. Yeah, it just kind of when you prolong this like too much, like, it just kind of becomes bland to me, and like I'm just like, all right, come on, let's get to the good stuff. Like
Yeah.
enough. Like I get it. You're stuck in the woods. It sucks. At this point, I'm getting frustrated with your story. So, I also feel that the story is like I said, very loosey goosey with the use of time passing. Like sometimes it's only say 45 minutes of running. Then the next he's crashing into a tree suddenly, and it's been 3 hours, or
Yeah, like what the
it's been
hell
several hours.
happened?
Yeah. Like suddenly, yeah, like right after like the sun goes down, he crashes into a tree because he's been running because he's exhausted because he's been running for hours. And it's like, okay, I don't know what time is right now in this story.
I guess you can kind of extrapolate the lack of talking about time to just basically say nothing happened in that time. It was me just walking through the woods.
Or running through the woods. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird how it just jumps, but it's not like we're missing actual information because if there was something that happened, it would have been said, right?
Yeah, like at no like he's running and wandering around the wood, these snow covered woods for 2 days straight, and a good portion of that didn't need to be brought up because like it was just kind of padding.
Bring up an old jingle.
Yeah, but that's honestly my my grammar acquisition. So, gamey, the E stands for evil. Take it away.
Does, today at least.
I almost said Mikey.
See, it's to make it like flow easier because you're used to saying an E sort of thing now after your own stuff. I did this for you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Moving on. So my first one is just 2 shorty sentences. It had snowed the day before. Period. I guess the snow is pretty common up here. Period. I feel like they're too short and they could just be squished together because they're talking about the same damn thing anyways.
Yeah.
So it had snowed the day before, comma, which I guess is pretty common.
Yeah.
Period.
Bam.
Pretty simple.
Mic drop.
Yeah. And then we have a semicolon here. And it is sorry. I kept reading the start of this incorrectly repeatedly in my head. I'm like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. No. Okay, moving on. It was a pretty soft, powdery snow, semicolon, the kind ski resorts prefer. So I don't feel that a semicolon is needed here. I also believe it's used incorrectly because, to my knowledge, a semicolon is for connecting 2 sentences which are related to each other. Because of that, each side of the semicolon should be able to stand on its own. And that can't happen because the second part is the kind ski resorts prefer. Like,
yeah.
That's not a sentence. There's no context to it. You get context with the previous part, and I get that's why they were trying to connect them, but it should just be a comma.
Yeah.
Because you can't go wrong with a comma unless there's 15 commas in a sentence. But yeah, it would just be. It was a pretty soft, powdery snow, the kind ski resorts prefer.
Yeah.
And then this one, it was at this point that I realized something. I realized something that surprised me just a little. And there's a colon. I wasn't alone in the woods. Period. So I don't know why there's a full colon being used here, because that's generally meant for a listing.
Yeah. Would you have gone? Well, it's a listing or like because I use it often with for like the naming of like titles for like episodes and stuff, like it's like ADR episode 1 : and then like the name of the story.
Yeah, of course, but
so
that's in titles and stuff, not in actual fully written.
I'm staring at I'm staring at the title for this for my notes here. Thoughts :
Yeah, you're okay to use. That's fine. That's a good use.
Yeah.
But not
in
here.
this, in the context of the story and with this sentence, would you have used an ellipses?
Yes, or just a comma. Ellipses is more dramatic, though. Yes, because you're trying to hammer home the fact that he's not alone in there.
Yeah.
And then here's another couple of shorty sentences. The woods were pretty quiet. Period. It wasn't windy or anything like that. Period. So again, there was no wind or anything like that, comma, so the woods were pretty quiet. Like I reworded it a little bit, but I basically flipped them around because I felt it flowed better.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. Next one. Her body didn't seem to be reacting to the cold at all. And there's a semicolon. No frostbite, comma, no bluish tint, comma, no shivering, comma, not even goosebumps, period. So here I feel like this should be a colon and not a semicolon.
Yeah.
Because it's a list.
Yeah. Man, you're just like hunting them colons and you're just giving this story. You're just giving this story a colonoscopy,
Colonoscopy, yeah.
a
That's what I do.
semi-colonoscopy.
Yeah.
I'm glad we both went to there.
Yeah, of course. Do some surgery on this story here.
Some Gamer Yellow's semi-colonoscopy. It's a colonoscopy on a semi.
Yeah. Or I just do part of it.
Yeah. You just got
I do it
halfway.
in
It's like, I'm
parts.
done.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
We'll do half your colonoscopy. You have to come back in a week if you want the other half done.
What?
Anyways, I'll move on. Okay. Isenglisskogen is a big expansive forest. Personally, I feel like it should be is a big expanse of a forest or a big expansive forest.
What did it say? Hang on. What?
Isenglisskogen is a big expanse of forest.
I
know this might be nitpicky,
It
but
is nitpicky. But continue. Sorry. Yeah. Like that. Don't let that
acquired
stop
the
you.
Nook before you. It only took the power of Gamer and Mikey combined, but we beat you.
Wait. So what we don't know, or what happened before the show, was that you and Mikey fusion hoed together,
Yes,
and now
indeed.
you are you're gamey, much like Gohan and Trunks became Gotenks.
Yeah.
Or not Gohan, Goten and Trunks became Gotenks. Yeah.
I'm sure if Gohan did it, they would turn to the same thing.
He'd be Gohan.
Gohan. I mean, it might actually.
Oh God.
So yeah, either way, you think it should just stay as forest?
I think like a big expanse of a forest, because like an expanse of a thing like that's
the way that you're saying it is the way I'm trying to correct it. You said
a big expanse of forest. Yeah, I mean, again, I would maybe use the A as well, like of a forest, but like of forest is also fine to me. The way it's already written is fine to me, but like
maybe a big expanse of trees. You know, like there's a lot of options that sound better to me, but if it's nitpicky, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it's a little nitpicky, but like at the same time, like your options are not invalid.
Yes.
To this, like they are also acceptable.
Okay. I paused to look around when I noticed the woman walking off in the distance. Relative to my position, she was at 3:30, about 20 yards away. That's a very specific direction information.
It's so damn specific, and it's never used again.
Never again. It feels way too much. Like even saying that she's at your 3 o'clock feels like a lot, but I would let that slide. But it's 3:30 specifically, like not 3, not 4.
Yeah, you rarely see. Yeah, you rarely hear like the finer number, like the minutes of the direction clock.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, I did note it was like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's kind of a weird way to say that it's that direction.
But why not just say like forward and to my right, or just to my right? Because why does it have to be so specific?
Exactly. Yeah.
It can just stay vague.
Indeed.
And then my last one. In fact, whatever she was seemed. Wait. In fact, whatever she was seemed to have such a good grasp on the woods. I'm surprised she didn't find me. That's how I read it.
Okay.
It sounds weird, right? Because there's a missing comma, in my opinion.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because the way that it should be right is, in fact, whatever she was, she seemed to have a good grasp on the woods. So I'm surprised she didn't find me. There's actually a second comma I put in there. Because I read she seemed as one thing without a break.
That's fair. Yeah.
And if it's possible to read it incorrectly, then that's a good reason to put something in there that makes that impossible. Mm-hmm. And then I have an it story.
Okay. um, and now an it story with Gamey. The E stands for evil. Take it away.
Somebody's got to do it. It had snowed the day before. It was a pretty soft, powdery snow. It crunched loudly as I stepped on it. It was still pretty early in the afternoon, only about 1 p.m. It might have just been such a big change that I was seeing it as being bigger than it was. But I digress. It was at this point that I realized something that surprised me just a little. I wasn't alone in the woods. It wasn't windy or anything like that. It was such a sudden thing that I stopped too. It was probably better than just letting her freeze after all. It was at that point that I realized that I didn't know where I was. It was at this revelation that I was becoming legitimately afraid. It eventually extends back to a mountain range, but first I needed to find home. It was like ice was forming in my blood. It's just on the outside of the woods here. It didn't hurt, but I had to wipe the snow from my eyes. It took little effort getting it out. It was all I could do while running to avoid going crazy. It was dark now. It was now too dark for me to see anything, and I was now too tired to even move. It was fine and gave me a bit of strength. It was pitch black, but I could tell it was something to my right. It must have been a new moon or something. It was mostly just a flat plain of snow with trees all over. It was hours later, and I still didn't see any scenery that looked even remotely unique. It didn't seem to be taking me anywhere, but I knew that it had to have. It was the trail. It was so dark now, I could barely see. It was now practically pitch black. It had to be past midnight when I suddenly felt something that wasn't natural. It was hair. It was a flashback to the night before, where I just ran blindly and probably got myself lost as I was. It was low and hard. It seemed to be a big rock. It felt so strange. It actually didn't seem like stone. It was too light for that. It was a hand. It was in the bone pile, apparently. It sounded like bone breaking. It sounded like flesh tearing. It was huge. It sounded almost like one of those mass graves. Sorry, it looked almost like one of those mass graves that genocides and massacres have been known to produce. It was a man. It looked to be a middle aged man, or at least what was left of him. Its mouth opened too wide, probably due to what seemed to be her cheeks missing, and hungrily tore off huge chunks of flesh ravenously, animalistically. It seemed almost like I might have fallen asleep while running, because suddenly I was reaching the highway, staggering out onto the pavement, and collapsing. It still hurts a little bit, especially in the fin.
Wow.
There was a lot.
There was a lot. Also, were you like you were embodying Mikey's reading style?
What do you mean? I'm embodying gamer right now.
Of course. uh Mikey, or is that you?
I
But
have
yeah.
to go. I must go. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Wow. Yeah, that was damn. I was like, part of it was like, it was the trail. I was like, and like part of that, it was like he was being like led into the woods deeper and deeper and like didn't know where it was. So it was like getting some like Nordic liminal space horror going on here, where like the trail itself is like the supernatural entity like leading him out into the woods. And then like the large rock, like it it was the kind of mass grave that like the genocides and massacres would produce. It was the man.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. And then like there was no description of her. It was just a man feasting on the bones.
Well, it was at that point. It did say she was doing that.
Oh, did okay? Yeah. So
yeah.
I may have not heard that properly.
I did previously just mention a man though, so it is easy to miss that.
Yeah. And then suddenly he's just falling asleep while running onto the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a trip and a half.
A little bit. You see why I had to do it?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Also, like, thank you for carrying the torch of Mikey here.
Someone had to.
And the reason why Gamey does this is because there's always better words to use at the beginning of a sentence, aside from its, ands, or buts, because there's always better words.
Always.
Yeah, specifically, and also like we get some silly kind of out of context stuff when you're using it too much in a story. Like,
also, while I was compiling all these it sentences, I realized how many times it just says it's dark. Like, it's dark. It's past midnight. It's pitch black out. It's dark again. Like
again, like it falls into that issue of the story of like the padding of like just him running during the day, then running during the night, and just like continuing to add more words to just like you're running. He's continuing running. He's still running. Stop running. Accept your fate.
Yeah. I would say just lay down and die, but he tried that and he woke up the next morning.
I have so much issue with that. It's not even funny. All right. Let's dive into the actual thoughts now. Then.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually give us a bit of a disclaimer for my actual thoughts.
Okay.
I'm a Canadian. I live through winters every year. I have been raised like how to survive during the winters and how not to survive in the winter. I have not personally had to deal with people like suffering or dying of exposure during the winter, but I have encountered it in my life through various like experiences and stuff like that. So reading this story, I'm gonna have a lot of notes about like his survival in this his uncanny survival through these woods.
Yeah.
I'm also as of this year and like last year, I got really into this this tabletop RPG and like art book series called Vossen, which is Vossen is a Scandinavian word for basically like spirit folk and the supernatural entities, much like the fairy folk and the fae are in like England and Ireland and Scotland. Like the Vossen are basically it's a term in Scandinavian countries for the supernatural entities, such as like gnomes and dragons and like the fae and such. So as a result of that, that obsession of late, reading this story felt like I was reading Vossen, the creepypasta.
That's a good thing, though.
Yes. However, just and the disclaimer is I'm going to be saying Vossen a lot in my notes. So I just had to explain what a Vossen is before I dive into it. So let's go into my actual thoughts here. All 4 pages of it.
Hot damn.
Well, maybe 3.5. So even though it was January, I figured that since I was out in the wilderness, that I might as well go out into the woods and explore a bit. This is literally like the first paragraph.
Yeah.
And God, even before I got to the snow conditions of the trail and his prep in paragraph 2, this is such a bad idea. Don't go into the woods in January.
Yeah, Nair's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Especially if you're living in a northern country.
That
Like,
he's not familiar with at all.
exactly. Yeah, like, or have an acquaintance come with you if you're gonna do that. Like,
Yeah.
have a local come with you and like that knows the woods. Fuck.
He's adventurous.
Yeah, especially he's from fucking Virginia. Like, I'm sorry, I
Not that
don't
there's
know
anything
how.
wrong with
I
Virginians.
know there's nothing to say about, but they ain't. But Virginia ain't Canada or Norway.
Yeah.
For like it's win. I'm sure they get bad winters. They don't got a snowball's throw compared to what we got to deal with. I guarantee. I guarantee. I'll move on.
Yes.
This is where we're gonna get like all the Virginia stands attack us.
I mean, it's fine.
But I'll move on. So, something struck me about her appearance. Something struck me about her appearance, though. I had to get closer to her to know if I was right or not. So I pursued her. I didn't want to call out for her yet. I began trying to hurry up. She didn't seem like she was moving very fast, but I was struggling to keep sight of her in the forest. So I know that the woman here is like a supernatural entity or like the weirdness in the woods in this story. Like even at this point in the story, like it's like, all right, that woman's clearly like a creature or something.
It's not a normal. Yeah.
But I couldn't help but imagine this in like a mundane scenario from a woman's point of view, walking through the woods, like hiking through the woods, and some weirdo yank starts hurriedly stalking you through the woods.
Oh, he's the bad guy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some nice Norwegian woman's just taking a hike out in the woods and like unaware that behind, like the camera's like behind, like showing like her like front, like as she's like walking around, and like behind her you just see like this menacing human, like this menacing male form like stalking through the woods trying to catch up to her.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
actually
so, like,
had something. I don't want to say that happened,
yeah,
but we did.
Gamer, it was also on my mind. So
Yeah.
do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, like with some vagaries, maybe?
Sure, because I don't know the names, anyways. Basically in the development up north where Cultus and I live.
Yeah.
There was
There's also like development, but like there's also some local woods and stuff like that. Like we live out near the wood. Like we're surrounded by forests.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But in the local Facebook page, it was mentioned that there was a man spotted in the woods that was hiking naked, jogging naked, I believe, like through the woods
in the fall.
Yeah, in the fall. It's pretty cold. It's not winter. He's no Nair, but still, it was oddly familiar.
Yeah, I definitely like
weird.
I definitely flash back to that news report or that report.
Yeah.
While reading this story. So like I'm glad I wasn't alone on that. Like but yeah, I'll move on like from that silliness.
Yes.
I didn't mean to stare considering the situation, but she really was gorgeous. From what I saw of her, without going into any lurid details, I'll just say her body and what little of her face I managed to see was damn near perfect. I shook off the distraction and began trying to approach her. So I guess the locals of this town haven't told him about Vossen yet. This is clearly either some sort of Huldra or woodwife. And basically they're like kind of a Huldra or a woodwife is basically like like a Scandinavian or like a Nordic forest or nature spirit, or like a nymph, kind of the equivalent of a nymph from like Greek mythology. They appear as like young women. They usually try to seduce men into going like to luring them out into the woods and like laying with them, or they feast on them or what have you.
Both.
Yeah. Por porque las dos.
Right.
Why not both?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah. It usually doesn't end up very well for the mortal that's being lured by the Holdra or the woodwife. And there are other like Vossen spirits or like beings that this could fit the bill for. Like I think there's a reason why, like I think there's probably like an ice maiden sort of character, sort of entity as well out there in the folklore that this could also kind of represent. But yeah, this is the first of my notes on like, well, this is just Vossen.
Yep.
Next one here. At that point, I realized that I didn't bring my cell phone with me. Shit. What would I do now? It was at this point that Review Cultist face palmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
A lot of bad
stupidity.
choices.
Yeah. Like he brought trail mix and a bottle of water. I guess that's a start, but that shouldn't have been the end of what he brought.
Yeah. Well, he was expecting to get back before sundown.
Yeah, but like he must have been in like we don't really get a full a full description of like how long he's been in this town, but he had to know that like the sun goes down pretty quick in the more northern like countries.
I got a feeling that he basically just moved to town,
Yeah.
so he may not. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's going to continue.
Mhm.
So the next thing here, hey, wait! I called out to her. No response. Suddenly, her pace quickened. A few seconds later, she was running. A few seconds after that, she was out of sight. Damn it! I shouted. I would have tried to follow her. I would have to try to follow her footprints in the snow, or go back to town and get your cell / call the authorities. Like,
Yeah.
at this, like, if she's running away from you, like, especially how creepily she's just like 1 second, her pace doesn't start quickening, then she's running, then she's gone. It's like, yeah, you're not catching up to her, buddy. Like, or she's luring you away into deeper into the woods where you're gonna get ambushed by by some like horrible like group or something like that. Like that like mundanified wise, like this that's a trap.
Yeah.
Like I've like not even like being silly, like I've read actual accounts of like groups of people in like out in the country and stuff like that on like country roads doing something like this to people who are driving their car. Like the person sees like a person on the side of the road, like just laying down on the side of the road, like usually sometimes it's a woman, and they drive by a little bit slow, but then they're like, all right, I don't have my phone on me, or it's like a time period where like phones weren't around available in the cars. All right, I'll that's weird. I'm not going to get out of my car though. I'm going to keep driving to the nearest town nearby. And then as they're driving away, they look out the rearview mirror, and suddenly just a dozen people start coming out of the woodwork, like coming out of the ditches.
Yeah.
And the girl
I played Red Dead Redemption.
yeah, I've played Red Dead Redemption before. Like the guy who stops to help dies first.
Yeah. Just run over
And,
every
like-
single one you see because you never know.
And I mean, like, it's sad that is the response now.
Yeah.
Because like it's sad that there are people out there that will take advantage of people's generosity and good nature, but like it's still creepy and terrifying, and like it has kind of like those kind of stories and like those actual accounts have actually kind of like scared me from picking up hitchhikers or like people on the side of the road, just because like I don't know if I can trust them. So
For sure.
Yeah.
And there are some situations where it's way more acceptable to do it, but like out in the middle of the woods and the lady's naked, it's like there's so many red flags.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, she's on something. Maybe the drug dealers and stuff of that are like trying to lure this tourist or this out of towner deeper into the woods to like mug them or something. Like,
Yeah.
it might have been like a whole plot from like some group in the town. But I digress. Like, yeah, you should just go back to get your cell phone or call the cops or just contact the authorities. Like, go directly to the authorities.
Yep.
But he didn't. He kept running into the woods like a doofus. Continuing on. That's when I noticed that she wasn't leaving any footprints. What the hell was going on here? A naked lady walking aimlessly out in the woods in the middle of the Norwegian winter with randomly appearing frostbite, and she wasn't leaving any footprints? Was she on drugs, or was I? First off, man, that was a bit of a breathtaking, because like that was almost like that was about 2 lines of one sentence.
Yeah.
A naked lady walking aimlessly out of the woods in the middle of the Norwegian winter with a randomly appearing frostbite, and she wasn't leaving any footprints.
That's a little much.
That's a little run on. But when I read this, I was like, Vossen, definitely a Vossen. This is already getting my gears turning for Vossen fodder. Just like, because hey, Vossen is also the name of a tabletop RPG by and named for and inspired by the art books by Johan Egerkrans. So yeah, like again, and that one, the Vossen RPG is like set in like 19th century Norway and like Scandinavia and such. But I mean, like, it's not that hard to like have this be set in that time period, or like even like set Vossen in a little bit more modern times. So,
If this story took place in those sort of times, it would be, I don't want to say more acceptable, but kind of, because like we wouldn't be like, oh, you don't have your cell phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like who doesn't bring their who forgets their cell phone constantly when they leave their house? That's just ridiculous. Note: the cultist's mother constantly leaves their phone.
Yeah, fair.
That's right. I'm calling my mother out on that. She doesn't listen to this show.
She might. She might. This episode, maybe she will.
Yeah, watch. Yeah.
It's almost. I wonder if someone happens to know what you just said and also know your mom and may need some dirt on you.
A2 gamer.
Yeah. Gaming, actually. I am truly evil now, member.
My God, what has he done? But I'll move on. I'll say like in terms of like the whole spookiness, like yeah, that's pretty fucked up. Like she's got elf walk, where like they don't leave any footprints on the snow. Like they're lighter than the snow. That's pretty ridiculous. Or like she's a goat. Like I was even thinking, it's like, okay, so she's like maybe like an apparition of someone who got lost in the woods, like a spirit, and she's just like repeating the same like routine. She's repeating the same route over and over again. That's kind of like what I was
especially
thinking.
considering she was never directly looking at him.
Yeah, like
until she was.
It constantly mentions that like she's, even when she was like looking at him, she wasn't looking at him. She was like looking through him.
So I immediately had ghost or like alternate dimension vibes, that he's somehow seeing into another dimension where there is a lady that's lost.
Yeah.
But they can't see each other,
That's fair, yeah. Then the next thing here, I turned around and found that my footprints were also gone. My trail now just started where I was standing at the moment. Had the snow filled them in, or was I going crazy? I know for a goddamn fact that I wasn't levitating. It was at this revelation that I was becoming legitimately afraid. Something was seriously wrong here. And to that, I'm just like, oh, you're just getting bamboozled or glamored is all. Still definitely something to worry about. Shouldn't have offered your coat. That's how they get you. Now, what you got to do, son, is wear your coat inside out. That's a good remedy to confuse them, breaking the curse and glamours.
Wow.
That is actually a Newfoundland and I suppose maybe an Irish remedy for dealing with if you're being fae stalked, or like if you're dealing with the fae, or like there's the fairies are around you, is to confuse them by doing something outlandish or illogical, like wearing your coat inside out,
or wearing your underwear over top of your pants.
Yeah. If you want to strip out in the middle of the wilderness and do that, sure. That's all
coat?
Fair. Yeah, if it's in the middle of the summer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that is actually legitimately that is a folkloric remedy for escaping fey magic and or like fairy influence.
That is cool and also ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm down.
Mm-hmm. But I'll move on to the next thing here. I paused to look around when I noticed the woman walking off in the distance. Relative to my position, she was at 3:30, about 20 yards away.
I thought it was like 8. I thought it was dark.
It was 0500 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a light breeze from the northwest.
Yeah. I stared at her for a few seconds, realizing that she was actually looking at me. The fact that she was looking at me was creepier when she wasn't. And I was like, oh, you done fucked up royally, son. Like, she's playing with her food.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, that was the point where it's like, oh, yeah, no, she's not a ghost. She's a Vossen. Which, ghosts and Vossen are kind of the same thing. Or like, generally. Like, yes. They fit the same bill. But, yeah.
Like, it's a blanket term for supernatural entities, basically.
Yeah, specifically those that live in like in the Scandinavian countries and stuff like that. Yeah. Again, it fits the like in England and Ireland and Scotland, we'd call them the Fae. In Italy, we'd call them the Fata or the Fate, the Fates. In like nowadays, we just call them like cryptids and spirits and such. Like, yeah, basically, like it's the regional name for supernatural entities and creatures. So but yeah, I was like, yeah, so at this point I was like, yeah, no, it's not a ghost, it's legitimately a predatory monster. It is clearly playing with him.
I mean, it can be both.
Yeah, again, por los dos. Porque los dos.
Yeah, because it does kind of touch him, right?
Like, later on, it uses it uses malevolence in the Cthulhu D20 book. Spirits have like a series of like abilities they can use. I think one of them is like a malevolent grasp, which like allows them to physically touch somebody and like harm them.
What you're saying is this creature could be statted.
Yeah, of course. This thing could be statted in Vossen. It could be statted in any number of like horror scenarios. Like, I could easily stat this in like Esoterist or Fear Itself, Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, Little Fears. Like, it's definitely statable.
Nice.
But I'll continue to move on. I backed myself up against the tree I had collided with and stared into the blackness, hoping not to get attacked. I remembered the food I brought with me and pulled out my bottle of water. I remember the food I had with me, so I brought out my bottle of water. Like, I mean, I get it. Like,
water,
like,
food.
Yeah, no, I get, like, I was like, yeah, you remember your food? Oh yeah, I have provisions. Like, that's what it means. But it's funny that like it's like I remember my food, so I grabbed my water.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. All the and then continuing on, all of the liquid had frozen solid. I found that odd because I didn't really think it was cold enough for that to happen, especially since it had been in my coat pocket the entire time. Really? In January, in northern Norway, at night, you should be a meat popsicle.
Was this after waking up the first time?
No, this is at night. This is when he like this is the tree that he curls up next to.
Yeah.
At least I feel like there should be some description of the actual cold. So far, unless it mentions snow, this story for me kept reading like it was in summer. Like, the way he's like,
I mean,
he's like avoiding
snow a lot. But...
It mentions, but when it doesn't mention snow, it's mentioning things like I avoided roots of on the ground, and so it's like that would all be covered up by the snow. Like, you wouldn't be
that's
like,
true.
Like,
I can tell that this is a sticking point for you.
It was bugging me so bad. Or like,
Yeah.
as a northerner, it was bugging me.
Because unless he's on a trail, which he's not, then he would not be seeing roots unless they are massive roots.
Yeah.
Or it might be basically he's walking through powder and he's tripping over roots that are under the powder.
But then he can't see that. Like he can't see the roots under the powder.
Yeah, that's true. It's mentioning that he sees them, not that he's feeling around for them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, then yeah.
The next thing here I have, there had to be some kind of connection, but I wasn't about to approach any solid idea as to what it was. And this is the reference like why things are getting so cold and why he's like getting lost in the woods and so that. And I was like, how many times can I say Vossen in an episode?
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's almost like I've been reading up on Vossen because of the Johan Egerkrin's art books and the tabletop RPG by Free League Gaming. I wish.
Yeah.
Legitimately though, like the Vossen books, like they're awesome. If you have a chance, I would recommend checking them out for the artwork and for the folklore of Scandinavia. They're pretty cool. And the Vossen tabletop RPG, while the core book is about Nordic horror, so like it's all about like Scandinavia. The second book, Mythic Britain and Ireland, goes to England and Ireland and Scotland. So
what a shock.
Yeah. And people are also aside from the official stuff, people are using Vossen to run stuff in other parts of the world using like the creatures. Like I've heard of ones where like somebody's converted Vossen to work with like Mononoke or the kami in Japanese folklore. So like you're dealing with like yokai and yuris.
Nice.
And like there's other Yurei probably. Yeah. Yuri is a whole different thing. It's a whole different genre of something I'm not going to talk about right now.
Okay.
Isn't
Yuri also the
okay, it's the term for lesbian anime.
Oh, nice. Isn't Yuri like a Russian guy's name?
Yuri is also a Russian name. Yes.
Yes.
There are. It's spelled differently.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
But it sounds the same. So it's maximum confusion.
Yes. It's almost like there are different languages using the same words because there's only so many vocab things you can do.
No, that's not possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Moving on.
Yeah, please.
They seem to be getting colder somehow. The entire forest seems to be dropping in temperature. I honestly wasn't sure I would live to see her catch me. I might freeze to death first. Weird. It's almost like you're in northern Norway in January at night.
Yeah, it's strange how the forest
He's like
colder when the sun goes down.
Yeah. And how like northernly locations are genuinely colder because of their proximity to the equator or their lack of proximity to the equator.
Yeah.
And therefore major influence of the sun. Moving on. I looked behind the tree to still see nothing in the dark. I was pretty quickly darting my eyes and head around, desperately trying to get a visual on something, anything. I couldn't even see the tree I was leaning against. It must have been a new moon or something. So I'm calling shenanigans here.
Okay.
This may be I call shenanigans. This may be supernatural like darkness that he's encountering, or like the sky is totally covered by like cloud cover. Like it's just super cloud cover and not snowing. It's just like cloud cover at night.
Yeah.
But generally in the winter seasons, you should be able to get some kind of night vision just from like the whiteness of snow on the ground. Like even if you can't see details on the trees, you would be able to see their dark forms silhouetted to the snow. Just because of how contrasting it is. And if he's been running around as he claims for hours with no personal light source, his eyes should have adjusted well by now to like seeing things in the dark. Like,
yeah, but I mean,
It could be that this is supernatural, or maybe it is just insanely dark. But like the night sky, like should have enough light coming from it, like like ambient light coming from it. Like even if the moon's not there, the stars would give us some ambient light to work with. But yeah,
Maybe he
I might
doesn't
be being
mention
too
that
harsh.
maybe he doesn't mention that it's darker than it should be because he's not often out at night, like in the woods, so we wouldn't know what to base that on.
Maybe, yeah. I may be getting too harsh on this story for this, but like again, I was just like, no, that's not how winter works. Like, if it was like if there was no snow on the ground, I could maybe buy that. Like, he can't see things around him because like everything's the same darkness, the same dark like shadows and stuff like that. Like, there's no what's the word for it? Like, there's no like light isn't bouncing off of the surface. It's because of the color. It's being absorbed by any ambient light would be being absorbed. It's what happens with like snow, because of the snow is white. Even at night, it bounces light off of it. It's a good reflector.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This episode is Northerners fight Northerners. Like, or Northerners. Apparently, oh no, I'm North-splaining, aren't I?
I mean, yeah, but someone's got to.
God damn it. Anyway, I'll move on. I'll continue. At some point, I must have fallen asleep because suddenly I opened my eyes to see broad daylight. How are you not dead?
Because she doesn't want him to be dead.
Maybe that is it. Maybe yeah, because like, how did he not die from exposure? Like,
yeah,
even
like
with a coat, even with a coat on, like you may not survive the night. Especially since you were saying that the coat didn't seem to be helping that much.
Mm-hmm. And he was just like, sitting on the ground. Like,
yeah,
it's not like he got any elevation out of the snow.
Well, no, because or dug himself into the snow, because like you can dig yourself into the snow, and like again, that's how igloos work.
Yeah.
And like I've seen Survivor Man, I've seen him like basically make his own like kind of not even like an igloo, but like kind of just burrow into the snow, to escape the winds and stuff. Like, honestly, it's the winds and whatnot that like really get you.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like this character, like
he was against a tree, but
he was against a tree.
Depending on how dense the forest is, maybe there's enough trees around him that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and again, maybe the Ice Maiden or this woman in the snow is keeping him alive long enough to like play with him and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Also, he does find my next thing here is I looked to my right and saw footprints in the snow. Not a trail, just two footprints side by side, like somebody hovered over, landed right there, and flew away. Was she watching me the entire night? Fuck. I think that might actually be worse than if she caught me, because now I know she's toying with me. Okay, yeah, that honestly, that could be explaining it. Is like she's right there. That's evidence that she's playing with him and like fucking with him and stuff like that. So she might have like kept the winter at bay so that he could survive, like he could sleep through the night to keep on this chase. Yeah, that my note here is like, yeah, that's pretty creepy and messed up. Okay, I'll give it that.
Yeah, for sure.
The next thing
also so in that one instance she was able to stand there, but when she's walking around everywhere else she doesn't make
she's just super saying she's using her key to like to fly and levitate everywhere.
I don't know, I feel like he would have been close enough to see if she was literally flying or not, because you would see if she's knee deep in the snow or not.
Or maybe that's just like she can leave tracks when she wants to.
Oh, so she chose to leave those tracks because it's intimidating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's scare tactics.
Okay, fair.
Maybe like it's like how Pennywise likes, like the reason why Pennywise scares people before he kills them is because the meat tastes sweeter with the seasoning of fear.
Yes.
That's actually in the story. Like that's like the entity is a psychic vampire because it uses the fear that it induces in people to marinate the meats. But I'll move on to the next thing here. At this point, I realized I was stupid and just ate a handful of snow. I completely forgot that snow was just fluffy water and just went without liquid because my water bottle was frozen. I must have been so confused with exhaustion that I didn't even think of it. No! No! Fuck no! Do not eat snow. It lowers your core heat, and you lose any semblance of of getting warmer in a cold environment. You are lost in the woods in winter in Norway.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is just because I live somewhere in the north, but God, these Derplanders. Apparently, Derpland, Virginia is a thing.
There's a Derpland in every single country and province.
Every province, state, and country has a Derpland.
Yes.
Ha 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 ha.
But yeah, at this point, Nair has
Oh my God.
incredible plot armor.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
probably the reason that the Lady in the Woods had to go feast is because Nair is draining her energy just to
Like,
keep him alive.
Yeah, so in if I was running this in Fear itself, this character is really just like sapping the entity's aberrance pool. So she has to go feed on something on a victim she has stored away to like siphon more aberrance points.
God, when he was sleeping and she was just standing next to him, I wonder if she like showed up and was like feeding him food and like putting a blanket on him to like keep him warm so he would survive, but make sure to remove the blanket before he woke up.
Oh my God.
Like completely mundanifying.
Yeah. Well, at this point, like, I mean, she might as well just like spins an aberrance, snaps her finger, poof, a blanket like lands on him softly.
Yes.
Kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just like, oh my God, no, don't eat the snow. That is the worst survival tip to do in the winter. Because legit, like the way you do it, like is like you melt the snow into water and drink it. You don't just eat snow because again, it lowers your core temperature so drastically that you could actually go into shock, into temperature shock for that.
Yeah, you're consuming the thing that's killing you right now.
Yeah, and like it is like a common misconception of like, oh well, snow's just water, it's just frozen, I can eat it and have water, I'll be hydrated. It's like, no, that is the worst thing to do. You need to like melt that snow into water, into its liquid form, and drink it lukewarm.
In a survival situation, yeah, if you're just like fucking about out on a walk and you're thirsty and you want to have a handful of snow, then who cares? But in a survival situation, yeah.
Yeah, in this guy's situation, this is the worst thing he could possibly do.
Yeah.
Moving on to the
Snow
next.
cones are deadly.
Yeah, snow cones are deadly in the winter.
Yeah.
In survival situations. Also, if you're coming across a snow cone truck, like an ice cream truck in the middle of the woods when you're lost, and they're offering snow cones, those are some red flags already.
I feel like Nair would still want one.
Yeah, he probably would. Moving on to the next thing I have here. I then realized I had something of a conundrum. Should I really follow the trail, or should I keep going in a straight line the way I was? I remembered seeing a map of the trail outside, seeing that it wasn't just one trail, but a huge network. I don't remember any specific details or paths or routes, but I knew that just blindly following the trail might not necessarily be a good idea, especially now that I was already on a good path. I decided the trail could go screw itself and kept walking in a straight line. It was so dark now, I could barely see. Can the winter lady just kill him now, please?
Yeah.
Nair is not meant to live. Like, yeah, okay, if like yes, like the trails like winds of it, that is the thing, but like the trails will also eventually lead to the trailhead. It might take you a bit longer, but at least you have an established trail, not just following the fucking sun as it wanes. Like,
yeah, it's kind of one of the dumbest things he could have done.
oh god, it's the derpiest thing he could have done.
Yeah. It's like, oh, here's some trails that I could actually use.
Salvation.
Yeah, this is the thing I've been looking for days. Great. Goodbye. I'm not going to use it.
Great. Fuck off. And keeps walking.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
maybe. I mean, I've said this a few times before. Maybe he's insane at this point, so
or
he's not
I wouldn't
thinking
even
right.
say I don't even think he's insane. I think it could be that he's delirious from exhaustion and the cold and stuff. Like, he's not feeling the cold, which is not a good sign.
No. That's like late stage hypothermia, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it like anymore, and he's gonna start feeling too hot and start taking off his stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so like maybe he's just suffering from like that kind of stuff, but like it's still the dumbest thing he could do is to abandon the trail.
Assuming it's not just another magical like fuck you trail that doesn't actually go anywhere and it just loops, he would have points of reference. Because that's the whole point. That's his whole problem right now. He doesn't have any points of reference to know where he's going aside from the sun.
Also, he knows where the sun is setting, so he knows roughly what direction on the trail to go. Theoretically,
because he's walking on a trail, he could do stuff like leave breadcrumbs, aka Tex-Mex that he brought. Did he ever eat that? By the way, he did.
He never. Did he eat it?
I think he said the Tex-Mex was fine. Like that's the
okay. Yeah.
After saying that the water was frozen. But if he had any of that left, he could leave some on the trail. Be like, oh, no, I've been there. I need to go this way, you know?
Yeah.
If he somehow wraps back around into the same trail, he would know.
Mm-hmm. But he just abandons the trail because screw you, trail.
Mm-hmm.
I'll move on. I could be standing in a field and I might not really notice. I debunked that when I felt a tree's bark in front of me. I began maneuvering around it, keeping at its base to avoid losing my direction. As I rounded the trunk, I felt something. I felt two icy cold skeletal hands lightly caress the side of my neck. Felt what must have been that thing's shredded lips lightly kiss my ear. So, see, this could have been a really good scene if the entity was actually, or even a hint that this creature was actually a Huldra. In the folklore, Huldra appear as beautiful women, but have inhuman tails. Like sometimes they have like fox tails or legs, and sometimes they have tree bark on their back with a hollow in the back on their back. So I could have imagined like they and I could even imagine like they might even have like a corpse-like appearance to kind of amp up the horror factor for like a story and stuff like that, especially if it's like a winter variant of the Huldra. So like I just imagine like I'm in front of a tree because it's pitch black, because I can feel the tree bark, and then he starts like kind of going around it, and then he starts feeling flesh. Like that could have been a really cool scene for if this creature was in fact a Huldra.
Or like it's pitch black and he's stumbling around, just leans up against a tree. It's like, okay, I guess I'll sleep here. Then all of a sudden, like he feels a hand go around him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like from the tree, as if the tree was a person.
Yeah, exactly. Like it could be one like again like one of the. It could be her like just kind of being a tree. Again, like the scene itself is good, like the way it is, but like this would have been a good part, like because like that is also really fucking creepy. Like, oh, thank God, I just gonna brush around this tree, and then starts feeling like the hands on his neck and like lips, like shredded lips on his ear. Like that's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's also like not in line with Vasan like maidens and the wood wives and nature spirits that like lure men into the woods or into ponds and stuff.
It's also not a buddy horror, right?
It's kind of a little bit of a. I wouldn't say it's a buddy horror because she's not leading him, like she's not meaning to lead him like to safety. She's leading him to her den or to her lair.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true. Because she was eating dude.
Yeah, and actually, case in point to that, my next thing here. My hand landed just right from. Oh, this is when he like lands over to the rock pile, like the large rock, and then like all the other little rocks that he goes over, that he falls onto and stuff. And he's also been bringing up that the landscape is very flat, like it's uniformly bland and like flat terrain, which is
Saskatchewan in the winter.
Yeah, which is that is not, first off, that is not the terrain of Lekselv, the actual town in Norway. Like it's actually like it's rugged and hilled and like mountainous.
He's also in a liminal space right now.
That's what I was thinking. I was actually getting some very Nordic liminal vibes from this. And I was almost thinking like, so like, first off, I called that the bones were the small rocks were skulls and bones and stuff.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he fell onto, like, those are bones.
Yeah, he's never mentioned rocks at all, and then all of a sudden there's rocks. It's like they're not just
yeah, but they're not just any rocks. They were too light. It was like they're bones. They're bones.
Mm-hmm.
Bones. Look at the bones. But yeah, also between the the liminal, the rustic liminal space of the forest. I'm not entirely convinced that this guy has just like, the reason why this forest is so expansive and so like why he's been lost for 2 days so badly is because he's actually slipped out of the mundane world and into the Vossen world. Like he slipped into the secret world of this Vossen, or this entity. Like he's now in her domain.
Yeah.
And like
again, it's a Stillwood King situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just from like dumb luck, derpy luck, that he slipped back out of it into the mundane world and onto a highway.
Yeah, that's the thing about derplanders. They're pretty derp, but they have massive amounts of luck.
That's the problem with derplanders.
Yeah. High luck scores, high plot armor scores, very low intelligence, and very low wisdom.
Yeah. Also, so more on like the nature of this creature. So we get this description of her in the bone pit, where it had once wore its disguise as a normal woman, attempting to maintain a sort of dignity or beauty. Its facade had mostly been abandoned. Its mouth opened too wide, probably due to what seemed to be her cheeks missing, and hungrily tore off huge chunks of flesh, ravenously, animalistically. So I was like, okay, so maybe it's not a Holdra or a Woodwife. Perhaps it's a Draugr or some kind of like revenant ghoul from like Norse mythology, or from like North mythology, or like northern folklore. Honestly, it could even be a troll. There's a lot of folklore in Vossen out there that could fit this bill.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Draugr kind of came to mind, because Draugr are kind of like not the ones that we always see in pop culture, like the Viking like zombies, or like there's ones that are like waterlogged like corpses and stuff like that. But there's also like a variant of the Draugr in northern in northern folklore that I've read that make them more like they're basically like walking corpses that are kind of in line to the original like Wampire or Wampir, which is the Eastern European version of like the original Eastern European version of a vampire. And they don't drink your blood necessarily. They rip out they eat your flesh and like rip out your jugular and stuff like that.
Nice.
So yeah, like it's way more messy when they feast.
A little bit.
So yeah, I could see
they
this.
Still do drink your blood, just
sometimes they do, but sometimes they also just eat your flesh like a zombie. Like interestingly enough, the old school Wampirs are more in line to what we perceive as like flesh-eating zombies than like Vlad Dracula.
Like that mindless as well?
Yeah, even that as well. Like, because they're usually just like they're like just the only thing that is driving them is their hunger, or their rage, or their just the killer instinct.
Yeah, that's my favorite game. Man, I want another killer instinct to come back.
Sorry, I'll stop.
That's what Wolverine sings in the tub.
Yeah. I'll move on though from the Vossen stuff. This is the last bit of my thing. My last note here is this quote here. As well as I could, I kept the lighter lit up and gently tossed it at her. reaching right into her hair. Her hair was lightly singed, apparently catching a slight bit of fire before the lighter faded out on the ground. I couldn't see what was happening anymore, just embers coming from her apparently burned hair, or apparently burning hair. I didn't want to stick around. Okay, that was kind of like genuinely funny and anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It
I
was
got a
like,
weapon against her.
it's like, I'm gonna be an action hero. Eh. Like, she fears the flames. Eh.
Yeah.
Like that was like genuinely like funny to me and like good in a fun way.
Mhm.
Like not like not like bad for the story, but like that was genuinely like fun anticlimactic. It's like oh, what was the scene? I It's from Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr. Movie, where where Sherlock is going up against like the giant Frenchman. And he they both like they're both in like a shipyard, like a dry dock, and like Sherlock grabs a hammer, the giant grabs a hammer. The giant's hammer is massive. Sherlock's is small. They both like go into a stance, look at each other's hammers. Sherlock throws the hammer at the guy. It hits his chest ineffectually, and then he just starts running.
Nice.
And like that's exactly what I envisioned with this. Was just like that ineffectual like throwing of the fire, it not doing anything other than singeing her hair. I think honestly he escaped because she was more confused.
Yeah.
he derped his way out of it.
Wow. That might be a first.
Where a derplander just derped away.
Yeah. There was so much derping that the monster just couldn't even.
Yeah, I'm
You
just like
know?
I don't even. It's the scene from like from Guardians of the Galaxy where like Peter's doing a dance, doing the dance off, and Drac or
Yes.
Ronan the Accuser is just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's a dance off, bro. You and me. Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, he derped his way away. He derped his way to safety somehow. But that is the end of my grammar. That's the end of my actual thoughts. Wow.
That's a trip.
Gamey, what do you got?
Okay, let's see. All right. First off, we have a little bit of art that is just picture of a forest on a nice trail that he's not
Mhm.
on.
Which I will say, whenever you look up English Kogan, it is that and a few other like snowy forest trails come up on Google Maps or Google
Yes.
Images. So apparently, also just as a quick aside, this story was apparently in somebody's thesis on like folklore being used in internet horror.
That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't sit down and read the whole thing, but like just like I again, it was one of the things that popped up when I tried looking up
English slogan.
Ingus Clogan. English Kogan, yeah. So I found that it was kind of like interesting that somebody used it in a thesis.
That being said, because like Isis Clogan has such good search clarity, I feel like the
Yeah.
story itself should be called that.
Yeah, unless that maybe that is what that means, is the woman in the snow is Ingus Clogan.
I mean, maybe, but if
But
it
like,
was called that, it would show up easier. Because if you type in "the woman in the snow," sure, you might get this, but you might have to put creepypasta after. You might just get pictures of women that are standing in the snow having a good time.
having a good time, having a
Yeah.
good time. Yeah, fair enough. Also, I have to do this. I'm going to translate to Norwegian the woman in the snow. I
Okay.
didn't look that up. It's like, oh no, is that okay? It comes up Kvinnen Eisenen.
Okay.
According to Google Translate. I was just like, I was worried that like I was gonna like look at it and it was just like the words mashed together for Ingus Clogan or English
Yeah.
Kogan.
Oh, like the translation isn't one word to like separate or some shit.
Yeah, they just smashed it, like the author just smashed it together to make that word.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, continue. Just,
Yes, I will do that. So in regards to the woman in the snow being like gorgeous and damn near perfect and all that, that's all kind of subjective, honestly.
Yeah.
Because like what you find perfect and what others find perfect are two different things. Not saying that I want the quote unquote lurid details that he said he wants to avoid, but a simple like PG description would be nice. Like later on, we get blonde hair and blue gray eyes, and I get that you would have to be closer to see the eyes, but we could have gotten the color of her hair, like how tall she is, her skin color, and general body shape.
That's true. Yeah, like it could have been like, and you're absolutely right. Like at this point, I'm pretty sure this creature is like basically making herself appear as the most beautiful, perfect woman to this
him.
guy. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But a little bit of description up front would be nice, as you kind of brushed on before.
Yeah.
Then when it mentions that he noticed that she wasn't leaving any footprints, I immediately went like, okay, this might be a dream, or he's just
Oh no.
imagining all of this. And also, if she's not leaving footprints, how is she making crunching sounds every time she walks?
Phantom noises. Like again, I feel like she can make those noises, but not leave trails, like leave tracks. It's again to up the fear factor for him.
Like she's making these mundane noises, because if she made like other spooky noises, it might scare him. But if it's just walking noises, it's
Yeah.
potentially actually just a person.
Exactly. Yeah.
But why wouldn't she like talk? You know, and say like "help me"
Maybe.
or whatever.
Fair. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe maybe she can't talk. Like actually speak. She can just do
Maybe.
sounds. Yeah, she can do sound effects and such.
So she's the guy from Police Academy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Oh my god.
How
Michael
dare
Winslow.
you not know who this guy named? What?
Michael Winslow, that's his name.
Yes, Michael Winslow. Yeah.
Yes, I did not Google that. Shut up. Anyways. But I will move on.
Okay.
So, despite the evidence that like he thinks he's imagining things and all that, he keeps trying to find this quote unquote levitating woman, and like he's taking this really well.
Yeah.
Even though he is damn sure in his head that he's imagining it, he's still trying to find this person. Even though he, like as I just said, he thinks that it is someone that is levitating. That's not normal.
Yeah. No, it isn't.
Why would you?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's hard to get. It's hard to feel for this character when I don't understand his thought process.
I feel like he's too he's too kind, or he's too like concerned for this woman. Again, like it is, to be fair, like it is a person naked in a situation where you should not be naked at all, because of, like the temperatures and stuff like that and the environment. And like you are a ways out away from the edge of the forest, so like maybe like he's like maybe he's like, well, maybe I like he's like trying to like rationalize it. The other thing I'm thinking is like, if she's such a like a beautiful like person, like a beautiful like woman to him, I think he's not thinking so much with his head as he's thinking with his head.
Yes, I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's thinking with the other head.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're
Possible.
talking about his penis.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, good. You'd slay it right out there.
That's the humor.
Indeed, I understand.
Mhm.
But I will move on.
Okay.
He then began taking a few slow steps towards me. I don't know why, but I was getting scared now. I could think of several reasons why you're getting scared now.
Yeah.
You're lost, you're cold, you're unsure of your own mental state, you're unsure of the mental state of this stranger who is apparently stalking you. This lady is naked and she's also not cold. She doesn't leave footprints. Your fear is valid. Like,
Yeah. Your fear is very valid.
yes. And then in the mindset of the mindset of this Nair is kind of weird because he keeps seeing weird shit and he keeps getting ignored by this woman, and yet he keeps trying to communicate with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like take the hint, dude. She doesn't want to talk to you. She's moved on.
Yeah, like there's several red flags like this way or
Yeah.
that on this matter. So
Yeah, you should have noped out so many times by now.
Mhm.
Or at least giving up on trying to communicate with her, because it has to be like 6 or 7 times that he just says, "Ma'am, ma'am, can I help you?" Like,
Yeah,
at some point, when you know that she has to hear you, like she's actively ignoring you, or because of the drugs she's done, she literally can't hear you. Like, don't waste your time trying to talk to her. Just try to help her if that's what he's trying to do.
yeah. Well, he did eventually like. I was like, well, I'm just gonna like drag her or like carry her back if I have to,
Yeah, eventually.
and that worked out great for him.
Totally. Yep. This next line, which might be grammar, but not really. I could really only wonder what the fuck that thing was. Why I was seeing so many weird things going on with the snow and ice. Wait, should that have a question mark at the end? Why was I seeing so many weird things going on with the snow and ice? Then period. Anyways,
Yeah.
isn't it just the one weird thing though? Because it says so many weird things going on with the snow and ice, but the one weird thing is the lady. And like the snow and ice around him, there's nothing weird going on with it. It's just there. Unless he's referring to the many weird things that the lady is doing with snow and ice, like as in like her body's freezing and stuff like that. I just didn't fully understand what he's referencing.
Yeah. Is this before or after the like he mentions that the temperatures are dropping and stuff like that?
After, because this is
Because
probably second night by now.
okay, because like maybe it's both like he's talking about like the cold temperature like suddenly like dropping as he was like focusing like on like what like looking for her and stuff like that, and then like he looked his water bottle's frozen, like maybe
Yeah,
that's what he's
maybe.
questioning, but
And
like
the
that's just
snow part
regular
is
winter
like,
shit.
yeah, and maybe the snow weirdness is like, I just walked there, but now my footprints are gone.
I think that's yeah I think the snow thing is like yeah the his footprint suddenly not being there in the snow anymore.
One thing it doesn't elaborate on, like he spots her and then looks back and his footprints are gone. Great, that's fine. Supernatural, maybe, probably. But does that mean from that point forward, every step he takes, he's not leaving footprints, or he's only leaving like 2 or 3 footprints behind him?
And then they start fading,
Yeah, like I,
or they start like oh god like they start like like supernaturally like filling up with snow
yeah, like
or like
is
or
that
deep
happening?
yeah like I'd love that to be in the story.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a cool like moment, like, a cool thing in the story. Yeah,
Because to me, it seemed like he he was like venturing through the forest, hit a cutscene, and then after the cutscene, it loaded into a new chunk of the map, so all of his previous footprints were gone, and then he can just continue.
yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Maybe this was like how where when he transitioned over to her domain from from the mundane world.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's what happened, but I
Mhm.
want to know more about it. If it's just another domain that's completely mundane, aka all of his new footprints are staying there, or if they're all disappearing just as quickly.
I
Because
don't know. Yeah,
that would give more warrant to him being concerned and, probably not trying to find her anymore after that point.
yeah, yeah. He should be a lot more concerned by like the fact that his footprints are going. But at that point, I would like fuck the woman. Like I'll call the authorities when I get back to town. I'm gonna try and find my way back home.
And he eventually does get there. It just takes him
It
a
takes him
long
2 days.
time.
It
He has
takes
to
him
beat his head against the wall for a while.
he has to beat him. He has to beat himself against a couple of trees in the dark, in the night, in the
Nearly
cold.
starved to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as I sat there listening to the distant crunching, I focused so intently I could feel every single snowflake hit me. They seemed to be getting colder somehow. The entire forest seemed to be dropping in temperature. I found it. That quote was after or before this
There
actually.
we go. Okay. Yeah. So there we go.
But yeah, and then that's just I actually chimed in on this. I forgot to mark it off that I talked about it. But yeah, that's what happens when the snow goes down. Things get colder.
Yeah. That kind of happens when when the sun you said when the snow goes down when the sun goes down.
Yeah, yep, I did say that. That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. It's cool.
But yeah, I don't know if this is meant to be said as an obvious statement or he's trying to suggest supernatural coldness, but
I think he's trying to make it sound like it's supernatural, but like no, that's what happens when the sun goes down in the winter. The temperature drops.
If it was getting colder and colder, like, and it was noon, like, but it was getting extremely cold, it's still possible that could happen, but with the sun going down, it feels natural.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there has to be some amping up going on to make it seem supernatural. If that's the intent.
Yeah, and usually like when weather during broad daylight, when there's sun like up in the sky, and it's still like frigid as hell, it's usually because there's like a really frigid like north wind, or like air current, like kind of coming into the area. So, like it can happen. You can have like really bad like cold like clear skies, sun, but like minus 40 degrees Celsius. Because and like the sun's not doing anything because it's just because of the wind chill is and like the air current is that frigid.
Yeah, apparently tomorrow it's going to be supernaturally cold up here.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of fitting that we're doing this now.
Yeah.
But I'll move on. So he finds out that heat is her weakness and promptly throws his only source of light and heat at her, which basically does nothing, right? It goes out. So, like, and here I thought Nair couldn't make a worse choice than avoiding the trail, but here we are.
It's just
could have potentially, like, if he kept that, could have potentially made a campfire, or find some means to properly hurt her with it.
Nope, and we're running.
Yeah, like maybe he rolled sand and failed poorly, but man, I'm cold. Hey, look, fire. Go away, fire. I don't need you.
Much like the trail. I don't.
Cold?
Much like the trail. I don't need you.
Yeah.
I'm a strong, independent Yankee.
Yeah.
I'm a strong, independent American in Norway.
Yeah, very strange thought process on this Nair. Like, more so than most Nairs,
Yeah. He lacks a survival instinct.
I feel like this is like the mayor of Derpland.
Mayor Nair of Derpland.
Yeah, he's out on vacation.
God, I really like this. More and more, I want to run a game that's just set in Derpland.
Yeah, it seems fun. But remember, if the players are Derplanders, you are giving them full rights.
No.
Complete idiots.
They are recent. They are either recent citizens to Derpland, or they are like recent transfers to like the police department or whatever business they're working at, like whatever firm they're working at in Derpland.
That's the thing. Okay, that's another thing though. This has nothing to do with the story, but whatever, we're talking about it. If they are people that have recently moved to Derpland, would it be proper that their characters slowly become dumber and dumber over time?
Yes. I would treat it like in how some people treat Carcosa in the Call of Cthulhu game and stuff like that, where like you can either accept what's happening and slowly be corrupted by Carcosa, and not lose sand, but like the more you do that, the more there's a corruption counter kind of going up for your character. So like the more derpy you're becoming.
I thought you're accepting the derp though. Like either you accept.
Yeah, you're accepting the derp. Yeah, exactly. You're accepting the derp, but you're not losing sand over it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're becoming corrupted by the derp land.
Yeah, your options are insanity or derp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. And how would you like do that in the game? Basically, like
I'll have to like Ross Payton from RPPR did it for Carcosa in a game. I'm gonna have to like go back and listen to that episode to see how he did what he did to the mechanics to do that. Or maybe I'll read like the Carcosa the Carcosa setting in the Delta Green books, because they actually do have like some rules for like falling into Carcosa and such.
Would it be like, depending on how derp the character is, when they do like a perception or a judge intent or something like that on someone, you give them less and less information because of how derp they are? Maybe, that they just roll with it?
Yeah, maybe that.
Or like a common sense roll, but your common sense gets worse and worse.
Yeah, or like maybe like I just decrease their intelligence for more and more.
Yeah.
but raise your charisma.
Yeah, your constitution.
You become more of a himbo or a bimbo as it goes on.
Yeah.
Is that just what Derplit is populated by? Just himbos and bimbos?
I mean, maybe. Depends
God.
if they're all charismatic and attractive,
Yeah.
or if they're all just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But we'll move on.
Hey man, I like you said earlier in this in this discussion, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, there's also a beholder in Derplit.
Yes. And he holds all the beauty.
Yes.
It's the most attractive beholder you have ever seen in your life.
Yeah. And we are, of course, talking about the D&D beholder.
Can I go on?
No.
Okay, fine.
Okay, no, you can go on. Continue.
Okay, cool. This is just the very end, actually. So it might be the last line. Let's scroll down and check, even though it really doesn't matter. It's pretty close to the end. I still warn you that if you do decide to go to
Wait, did it change again?
Isingles.
It's Isingelskogen. I think it changed a third time.
It's really is a liminal space.
The first word of the story, Isingleskogen. The next time we see a change, it's Isingeliskogen. And now we have Isingelskogen.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it's a made up word, honestly, like from the author of the story. Like I think it's just a fictional thing in the story. But
or
continue.
Because the place like keeps changing as he's going through it. Every time he references to it, he knows the name of it, but every time he references it, like, yeah, I know the name, it's this for sure. But every time he references it, it changes because he's referencing it at a different time and it's different now. But that is the name now. That's putting a lot of deep thought into this.
Say, Gamer, I want to give you and this author that credit, but I can't. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I can give this author that much credit for like having that much nuance in the story. Okay, like, if that is the case, like, bravo. But I don't think that is the case. I think it's just a weird typo mistake.
Yeah, that's probably the case. But either way, I still warn you that if you decide to go into Isingleskogen, I can't promise that you'll do any better than I did, is what he says.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, if someone reading this story that's who's responding to this line, if someone reads the story in the lore and went in, they probably would be able to do better than there because they would hack to prepare to be stuck out there. They would bring a friend. They would bring weapons, fire, Molotovs, a blowtorch. Like, it's very possible that someone could do better. Like, I would dare say someone can't do worse than him.
Yeah, at that point, they're just a member of the society from Vossen, going in to investigate this Vossen that's in these woods.
Yeah, this story is just a primer for a campaign.
Honestly, it could be a primer for a scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that is the end of my notes.
All right. So let's go on to final thoughts here. The story was interesting but conflicting to me. It was a good core concept. I like the creature. I like the general setup for like what's going on in the story. Even has the makings, I feel, for a good creepypasta, but there's parts of the writing, and I'm not just saying like grammar wise, but like choices in descriptions of the scenes and setup, and even some of the character logic. Look at all the Derpland jokes we've been making.
Yeah.
That really just kind of hamper the story. Also, as far as I been able to find, there is no Isingleskogen. And like, again, I'm not even sure if like the town is a real place. Like, it might not even be the same like Laxlev or Laxelv. That's mentioned at the beginning of the story, like the town that he's in. Like Laxelev, Lakselev. But when you Google map that same word, it corrects it to Lakselv, and it is in northern Norway. But it doesn't have the same, like, there's no forest as far as I could tell that were called Isinglis Kogan. There's so like if there is somebody listening to us, like if the author or somebody who is from Norway or Scandinavia that knows what this story is referencing, by all means, please leave us a comment and let us know, or like send us an email. Because I genuinely like to know if this is a fictionalized thing that this author's created, or if this is an actual place that somebody like that they're referencing in Norway.
There's no Isingles Klogan in Laxala. There is no Isingles Klogan
Oh no!
in Laxala. But there is an Isingles Klogan somewhere else. It's like
No,
a
there
Wolf
isn't.
of the Stillwood situation.
Yeah, well, no, there is no Isinglis Kogan anywhere else, as far as I could tell. Like Google Maps does not show up any search results. And it's a pretty concise and like
Almost like it's a weird liminal space that isn't
maybe
actually real.
yeah, maybe Isinglis Kogan is not an actual. It is a fictionalized version of like the woods near Lakselv in Norway. Maybe it is Laxalev in like the up in like the local area, in the regional area, or like maybe that's a like a spelling of it or something. Again, I may just be wholly ignorant of it, but yeah, if anybody knows, like, by all means, please send us an email or comment. As for the story itself, I feel it needs some work to improve the experience, but I'll give it a partial recommendation because it does have a cool creature and concept behind it. It just needs some work. So, gamer or gamey, your verdict.
Can I just say ditto and be done with it? Because honestly,
that would be concise. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
yeah,
like I do feel the same way. Like, so like Nair, I kind of felt trapped in a never-ending struggle to survive the story. To be honest, though, like Nair was lost in the woods and attacked by the woman, and I was lost in the words and attacked by repetition, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of the story needs some of the editing is going to be like getting rid of some of the padding.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because again, like that might be intentional because that's his life. He's stuck in the woods. He's trying to leave every day. That's what he's doing. But when you say it over and over, it does seem a little much, you know.
Yeah.
Because like you just keep saying on, and with seemingly no end in sight. Because there were many times where I'm like, oh, this seems like this is about over. He's about to die. I look at the scroll bar. Holy shit, there's so much more. He's not dead yet. Okay.
Yeah.
The scroll bar kind of ruins the amount of potential tension in tense situations because there's no way he's dead because there's so much more.
Yeah, but there's also no way to get around that because like even if this was like a book, like in a novel or like a short story in a novella, you would see the page count.
Yeah, for sure. And it is kind of just my fault for looking over there and checking to see how much more I have, but either way, that's on.
Yeah.
Either way, the story could have ended many times, as there are several paragraphs that repeat the same thing, just a bit different. And if you remove the padding, it would cut this down to be a lot more concise and to the point.
Mm-hmm.
But the creature itself is a very cool visual, and by the end is quote unquote proven to be quote unquote real, quote unquote. All of that is in quotes. And
verbatim.
Yeah, and not just something that he imagined. And I like that because it's like with the video game creepypastas where it's like, oh, it's a spooky game, but I can turn it off and there's no repercussions. In this, there is repercussions. Like, this shit is real. Something happened to him. He has the badass skeletal scars on his neck.
I just realized this kind of reminds me of a Lovecraft story called Dreams in the Witch House, which is a story about a character having like nightmares and dreams, but he pulls things from the dreams into reality.
Nice.
To make them like so that like what he experienced, what he did in the dreams happened to him. Like he has proof that they happened.
It's like also a Disney thing, like on a more PG side of
it.
I'm sure there's Disney shit where it's like, oh, like it's all magical. Oh, it was all a dream. but then like their magic wand that they got in the dream is out there on the table. It's like, whoa, crap.
You obviously have not read Dreams of the Witch House. It is not
No.
Disney. It is not a Disney story.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying I know
Yeah.
that there have been more positive versions of that used.
Yeah.
But either way, as I said, the creature's very, very cool. I like the look of it, not just because it's an attractive woman, just the how it changes the closer you get to it and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and it just gets worse and worse, and it has like it just goes down to bones at some point, like from the knees and elbows down. Like it's really cool.
Here's a question: what if this is hell?
What, this recording?
No. Nice. No, I mean like the Norse god of death, Hel.
Ah, is it Hela?
Or Hela or Hell? Yeah, like it's Hel or Hela, depending on.
Either way.
Yeah, and like so it's a woman, like, and usually like in at least in the art and stuff, Hela is usually described as naked, showing like one side of her body is like a beautiful woman and like a beautiful maiden. The other side is a desiccated corpse version of her body.
Yeah, that
so
is
like,
basically this.
And like if you take that in a certain direction, like the two halves is like when she's far away, she's whole, or she appears as a whole as a beautiful woman. But then like as you get closer, you kind of get the other half of her, which is the desiccation and like the frostbite and parts of that.
Yeah, at distance, it uses the low poly version of her character model, which is just a beautiful woman. But the closer you get
the high def,
detail of the character model. Yeah, it gets increased, and you see all the gritty details.
Yeah, all the gruesome details. Yeah.
Yes.
In all her gory.
Aha! Nice.
I can't even like that. That's a Monkey Island reference. I can't even like.
Wow.
I can't even like own that one.
That's fine. You still brought it up. But yeah, either way, cool creature. I just wish there was a cleaner path to get there.
Yeah.
So overall, I'll still say partial, just because of how much I like the creature itself. I just think Nair is a tool.
Yeah, fair, and he kind of is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel that the trail needs to be cleaned up to make the journey there, much like his trail that he should have went on to get home.
He should have gone on. Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. I wish I brought this up earlier, but I'm gonna bring it up now. The trail that he finds, I wish that he took it. Not that he would be able to leave through it, but just to show another level of the cyclical hell that he's in. Like he goes on the trail, it's like, yes, I can follow this trail. It'll take me somewhere at least. I'll have some reference points. Great. I'll even drop some Tex-Mex here. Great. Now I can follow that. And then he starts walking, and then he finds the Tex-Mex on the ground again. Like, wait, what? I just went in a straight line. I didn't even turn.
Oh, that would be so fucked.
Yeah.
I'd be like, fuck.
It's like, oh, this is where I die.
Well, at that point, I think I just sit down and take it, and just
like,
at that point, I just embrace the woman.
Yeah, just sit down, pull your backpack, and just start committing Sudoku. Bring out your little
puzzle book.
Your little puzzle book. Yeah, just sit there.
Yeah, at that point, I think your fate is sealed. Like,
yeah.
Hilariously enough, funnily enough, actually, I'll talk about it after episode. It's not relevant. Sorry.
That's the long and short of it. Partial still.
Okay.
Lots of
boy, like this story, we finally got there. We finally got to the end. Man, can you imagine if you had not been fused with Mikey and he was here too? Like this would have been like a 4-hour episode.
What do you mean?
Maybe.
What do you mean? Both of us said everything that we wanted to say.
Ah, yes, clearly.
Yeah.
The gamer's just like, yeah, no, Mikey gave me his notes. He did actually take them. He sent them to me.
How the hell do you think I got a lit story?
Wow. But that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. We're all on Twitter. The Gamer in Yellow, is that the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end, because his name is very long?
Yeah, his name is long.
And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails. go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. And
You forgot my Twitter account.
you can also leave us emails. Go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void endlessly in the dark, pitch black, cold nights of Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And without your authorship, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I've actually been the gamer in yellow the whole time.
What? No. Really?
I got you.
Oh, I don't know what's real anymore.
Right?
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.